Hello and welcome to the Surviving to Thriving podcast series. I'm your host, Casey Miller. So the purpose of this podcast is to provide you with the knowledge that you need to become the CEO of your health and become the best version of yourself. I really, truly believe this. The top 3 things that you could ever invest in your life are going to be your health, who you surround yourself with, and acquiring more knowledge. If you continuously pour into these 3 cups, I promise you, your life will change dramatically for the better. Now, luckily, this podcast will pour into your health and knowledge, but if you want to surround yourself with like-minded people who will push you to win, go ahead and join our Surviving to Thriving community. We'd love to have you. The link is going to be below in the description. Before we get into our episode, I want to take a quick second to thank our sponsor, Legion Athletics. I've been in the game for a long time, and it's really hard to find supplements that you can trust while also tasting great. I believe Legion is a perfect mixture of the two. They're backed by science. Everything is clearly labeled on the bottle. And from my own personal experience, everything does really do taste really great. So if you want to get your own Legion supplements, use the code THRIVINGON, one word, to get 20% off your first order and double reward points. Now, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hello, and welcome back for another episode. Appreciate you for coming back and listening to little old me a little bit more. If you are watching the video, I'm currently walking on my treadmill right now. Just trying to get some movement in. Been feeling a little bit sluggish after the holidays, getting back to real world, eating lots of food, traveling a lot. So usually I get a little bit more into a flow state when I'm moving. So that's why I'm walking while I'm doing the podcast. And 100% transparency on this. This is literally very organic, off the cuff. I'm just chatting with you guys. This was not planned. Being even more transparent with you guys, I had no idea what I was going to talk about today. I really didn't. It wasn't until about 10 minutes ago where I actually realized what I was going to talk to you about, and I decided to just grab the mic and just go with it. And the reason why I've been struggling so much to figure out what I should be talking to you guys about is because of the pressure of the obligatory posts that fitness professionals are supposed to do after the holidays to give you all the motivation to get back on track and not feel super stuck and all these different things. But every single time that I'm going to do it, all I felt like I was doing was acting like every other fitness professional in the industry. I really did. And I don't know if you guys notice this, but honestly, what's being put out there when I'm scrolling through and just seeing what other people are doing, sometimes I do that. I get the major ick. It just feels like so much cramming down your throat of what you should or should not do. It doesn't necessarily feel like it's adding a solution. It's, in my mind, adding to the problem. When I was struggling within my own journey, the shit that people were putting out there was not actually helping me. If anything, it was actually adding to the problem, making me feel worse than when I started. And I struggled so much to figure out what I should say. And I knew that I really wanted to put a podcast out today. I wanted to stick with my routine, keep my promises to myself, promise myself that I would put out a podcast every single week. And I was just struggling. I couldn't think of a topic to talk about. I know that I did want to talk about the holidays in some manner because it's the time of the year and the holidays is something that people do struggle with a lot. But again, I didn't want to be like every other fitness professional that's throwing shit down your throat, like burn off that turkey or that pie or whatever. Or by the way, I'm going to practically guilt you into buying my own shit, leverage your emotions because you're feeling a little bit vulnerable because a lot of people struggle during the holidays. I just didn't want to be like that. The reason why I got into this business is to do it differently than everybody else because what we're doing in the fitness industry is just not working. It's not. I wanted to be that difference. And I feel like if I did a podcast or a post like everybody else, I would just be adding fuel to the fire. And I was not okay with that. So it wasn't until about 10 minutes ago, I actually came up with a topic of what I wanted to talk about. What really spoke to my heart. And again, it was 10 minutes ago. Threw down some notes. Not really going to edit this much. I'm hoping that this feels very authentic and kind of like a conversation between me and you. That's a big thing. I don't want it to be fake. I don't want it to be super edited or anything like that. I want you to feel like you're in the room with me and we're just having a conversation, because that's what we need. We need more connection, not necessarily more AI or anything like that. We need to feel connected to people. I think that's a big thing that we're missing, especially with COVID and technology coming in. We just need people. We need to connect. So hopefully this feels like this. And I also understand that if you're listening to this and you're feeling the way that I'm feeling, where it's like every other fitness professional out there is cramming stuff that I should or should not be doing during the holidays, I feel like it's making me worse, and you want to stop this podcast, I support that. Like, 100%. Like, all I want to do is see you win. So if this is something that you don't necessarily need at this time, feel free to exit out. If you are somebody that's looking to maybe potentially learn a thing or two, because I am going to be going over the topic that did come in mind, where it's basically what I would want to be told when I first started my fitness journey. What were the things that I think that would actually have helped me rather than made me worse? And help me actually get that freedom of not fearing the holidays, not feeling like I have this super toxic relationship with this time of the year, where I could actually be really proud of myself, of the outcome, where I am living my life, but also not feeling like I'm starting all over and dreading this time of the year every single year and feeling like I'm always out of control, right? And if that sounds like a topic that will help you, I would love for you to listen. I hope you get a couple things out of it. But again, if you're like, dude, I don't want to hear this, I don't think this is necessarily going to help me, again, I support that too. Completely understand. I threw away my phone because I literally could not handle the amount of like holiday bullshit that's out there. So either way, again, do what's best for you. But we're going to go with the podcast on honestly what I wish I would have heard during my fitness journey when I was struggling. What would have made amazing changes in my life, helped me become a lot more proud of the outcome of how I handled certain situations than feeling like I was out of control, having that dread, anxiety, always feeling like in this groundhog perpetual cycle of punishing myself during this time, adding more fuel to the fire than anything. So, and I'm going to list these things off. I wrote them down in notes. I have them right in front of me. They're not in any particular order of importance. It's just what popped up in my mind. I came up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different tips. 6 different tips that are in front of me right now. All right. And we'll just jump right into it. I don't want this to be super long. I know that you guys have a lot of stuff on your hands during the holidays. And also, if you have ADHD brain like me, you got a short attention span. So we're just going to get right into it. All right. The first one is going to be leave the shoulds and should nots at the door. Okay. Leave the shoulds and should nots out of the door. Just like I was talking about before, all of the fitness professionals are telling you what you should or should not do. Okay. And usually when we have this narrative in our mind, I should be working out, I should be eating healthier, I shouldn't have that second cookie or the second piece of pie, or I shouldn't have overate or overdrank or any of these things, or I should have walked, or all this huge narrative of what we should or should not do. Like, as I'm listing that out, I'm getting tighter and tighter and tighter and anxious and anxious and anxious as I'm doing that. Like, all these shoulds and should nots, these expectations that we're being thrown at us. Sometimes we throw it at ourselves. It just, you get this anxiety. And it no longer becomes this thing of, hey, I'm doing this because I love myself. I'm doing this because I know I believe that I deserve to feel great. I'm doing this because, hey, like I'm currently walking on the treadmill right now. And I'm not walking on the treadmill because I need to work off that pumpkin pie or the turkey that I enjoyed. I'm doing it because, like, literally I have brain fog right now. And my flow state comes out when I'm moving. I'm very much a kinesthetic worker and learner. When I move, my mind works a lot better. So sometimes I do that. So you see, it's like, hey, like I'm doing this out of a place of, I just want to think well. I don't want to deal with brain fog, so I'm moving, you know? So like that relationship of loving yourself, showing yourself a little bit of love, doing something that is going to add value, like add, rather than being like, you should be working out, you should be eating in a calorie deficit, you should be eating more vegetables, you shouldn't be eating that pie, you shouldn't be enjoying leftovers, like all these different things of shoulds and should nots. Like, again, it's just creating this anxiety. And we can all agree that if you're creating these expectations out of a place of almost expectations or almost like punishment in a way, you're not going to enjoy it. Okay? You're not going to want to do it. And it goes directly against the main purpose as to why we're doing this in the first place. The main reason why we're focusing on our nutrition and our fitness is to live our best life, to live our life to the fullest, to love the way that we feel, we think, we move, we look, our quality of life, everything. And so when you're having this perspective of shoulds or should nots, and you're having this unrealistic expectations, and you're creating this anxiety because of expectations, that's not enjoyable. That's not going to help you live your best life. That is not going to help you love the way that you think at all, or feel, or move, or anything like that. It's moving directly against your main goal here. So logically, the way that you're doing it, your perspective, is not helping. It's actually adding fuel to the fire. So that's one thing that I wish somebody told me, is like the shoulds and should nots should stay at the door. They shouldn't be coming in. We've got to do this out of love. Like that mindset of, I'm not here to restrict. I'm not here to punish my body. I'm literally here to love on myself. I'm going to work out today because I want to do it. I'm going to work out today because I want to move my body and I want to feel great. If I sit down all the time, you know what? Like I get a little bit of groggy and mental fatigue, or hey, like I want to move today because it feels good to move, right? Or like, hey, like I want to eat vegetables because you know what? I don't want to be dealing with diarrhea for days, like all these different things. Like that's a funny one, but you see what I mean? Like doing it out of a place of love. Okay. The second one that came up is stop looking to others on what you should or should not be doing during the holidays. So it's kind of a segue, right? We're thinking about shoulds and should nots, but a lot of times where we look at what we should be doing during the holidays, we're like, okay, there's no shoulds or should not. So what should I do? And we're very much the type of like, we like monkey see, monkey do. Can we get an example just to see? I'm the same way. Like, give me an example, and then I can help. Like, I like it sparks an idea, and I can go with it. Okay. But when we're looking at what we like, an example, we're looking at other people. We're looking at fitness professionals. We're looking at maybe somebody in your life that like you look up to. But here's the thing that we always forget. Hold on one second. I'm going to slow down the treadmill so I can focus a little bit more. Here's something that we always forget during this time is that what other people do is not going to work for you, especially during the holidays. They don't have the same schedule as you during the holidays. Maybe they do have kids. Maybe they don't have kids. Maybe they have kids at a different age than you. Maybe that you are a single parent and they have another partner that can take that on. Maybe they're traveling and you're not, or the vice versa. Like maybe they want to live their holidays different than you. Maybe they define success differently than you. Maybe they have different goals at the certain time. All these different things are coming up. And so when you see somebody that's working out and you're looking on social media and you're like, that person's working out, I should be doing it too. But like, you guys have two different goals. Another person could be dieting during this time and you're not, but like you guys have two different lifestyles, unforeseen circumstances, all these different things that are happening during the holidays. You're looking for other people. You're looking to other people for those examples of what you should be doing, but it's not serving you because they don't have the same expectations. They don't have the same wants and needs. They don't have the same perspective of life. They don't define success the same way as you do. They don't have the same restrictions, all these different things. So when you're trying to do what other people are doing, now you're automatically setting yourself up for failure. 100%. Right? What I would suggest you do, and this is something that has been an absolute game changer for me. I'm going to share this with you. And this is something I do with every single one of my clients that works with me during this time. And it works out perfectly if the client does it. And it's going to be, instead of looking to others for that example of what you what is a potential game plan for the holidays for you to come out on the other side better, is asking your future self, looking on the other side of the holidays, right? Pretend that you're talking to the person on the other side of the holidays, and pretend that person had a great outcome. They're super proud of how the holidays went. They were able to make memories, be there with their family, be their best selves, enjoy food, enjoy the whole experience, but also having a lot of confidence in themselves and really proud of how they manage certain things. They don't feel like they're a complete trash panda, maybe a little bit of a trash panda, but they're super proud of the outcome. Okay, imagine yourself on that side. Now ask yourself, that future self, okay, what did you do? What did you do to have that really, really proud outcome? But like, get specific. This is like a journaling prompt that I have people do, and they can actually write this down on a piece of paper or anything like that. And people just write it out. And I did this year, and I am proud of the outcome that I had during the holidays. Are there some things that I wish I could have gotten better at? Yeah, 100%. But we're human. That happens every single year. We're not going to be perfect during the holidays. But this year, when I was doing it, I was writing down, I was actually typing it out. I prefer to type out as of lately. Sometimes I do write down, but this time I was typing out what my future self would do. And the things that I came up with were, my future self would not be in a calorie deficit during this time. Honestly, my future self would not be tracking during Thanksgiving. My future self would actually be not tracking and not paying attention to the calories or anything like that. And the reason being, for me specifically, is because I used to be a weight class athlete. I used to compete in weightlifting. And one of the biggest weightlifting competitions of the year, the second biggest of the year, was right after Thanksgiving. And I spent 5 or 6 years having to be perfectly on weight. So that means I had to track everything. That means I couldn't enjoy Thanksgiving because I was always trying to stay down a lower weight class rather than lifting up. Okay. And for about 5 or 6 years, I completely lost out on a lot of memories. I remember bringing my own food. I remember not participating in Thanksgiving. I remember sometimes couldn't even handling it and just binging on food because I was trying to restrict myself. So then I had a poor outcome. I remember going to the gym and training for about 2 to 3 hours every single day. And at that time, it was 100% worth it. But anything worth doing does come with sacrifices. And I'm in this phase of my life where I'm not trying to be a competitive athlete. I'm just going to be a human being for the first time since I was 9. Like, I've been an athlete my whole life. And I did not define success as tracking my food and staying on point. While I do have clients that are doing that because they have a different outcome. They have seen time and time again where they have been just eating everything and everything. They've been a trash panda, all these different things. They've never had any sort of structure or accountability during that time. And they would feel that asking themselves honestly, it would make me super proud if I could make a promise and keep it. It would make me super proud of maybe tracking half the day. It would make me super proud of if I had some type of structure or goals during this time. So that way I have a different outcome than I had before. So you see how to one person's success, not tracking at all, being a little bit of a trash panda is success for that time, because I've spent 5, 6 years of completely not even enjoying the Thanksgiving dinner at all, not even eating with other people, bringing my own Tupperware or restricting myself before and after. It's just like a poor experience versus other people have had a completely opposite experience. Okay. And so when you're sitting down and you're asking yourself the future self, they're the only person who objectively will have all of that context. They're the only person out of anybody that you talk to, right? And yes, we're referring your future self as a person. They're the only person that will have an objective view of that context and will help you define what your success is during the holidays. Nobody else, not even a professional coach, because we can't know what you're thinking. We can't know every single ins and outs. And sometimes it does take a little bit of trial and error until you find it. But the best person to ask what you should be doing during the holidays is your future self. What would make you super happy? Some other examples are like, I never got drunk. That was a big thing. I never got drunk. That was a big non-negotiable. It's like future self would not be proud of Casey getting drunk. I did enjoy drinks, but I never drank to get drunk. Future self worked out 4 days a week. I did that. It was kind of dragging feet to do that because I definitely didn't want to do it, but I did it anyways. Future self would go on walks, and on those walks, it wouldn't be at a treadmill away from everybody. I did do that once, but it was purely just because I went to the gym and I didn't want to work out. I didn't feel like that was going to add value to my life. I felt like I was getting a little sick. So I literally just moved because I knew blood flow would get me better. But besides that, what I would rather have done that would make me super proud is go walking with my significant other, which this was their first holidays together. Now have some me time, especially if we're constantly around family and things like that. We did need to downregulate and get all by ourselves. So walking is one of our ways of just reconnecting and communicating with each other and getting on the same page. I wasn't taking time away from my family. I was actually making time for me and my family and helping me downregulate and protect my space and my mental health. Right? So you see all these different examples that I'm coming up with. That was how I defined success for the holidays. And now asking that question before going into Thanksgiving, I was able to figure out what would that look like. And then I came up with a how. How am I going to make that happen now? So one of the things that we did is we got a gym membership at a gym that wasn't too far away from us. We communicated to our parents that we were looking to work out and asking what time would work best. And luckily, we're pretty fluid with things. If we weren't able to go to a gym, probably would have just done some at-home workouts like body weight stuff, or try to grab my suitcase, pile it with a bunch of heavy stuff, and do at least something for 20 to 30 minutes. We would have had that game plan too, right? So then I could have still checked off the box, did something rather than nothing at all. And like in terms of drinking, I would have been just fine. Like, hey, like, okay, the how. Okay, probably about limit is about 2 to 3 drinks, because at the third drink, it's kind of a hit and a miss. Usually get a little tipsy around that time. So no more than 3 drinks at one time. So you see how I'm thinking about the how. What is the structure that I'm going to be following through? Now I have extreme amount of clarity of what I'm going to be doing that's going to create the outcome that I'm looking for. Okay. So you see how asking your future self allows you to be extremely objective of what specifically is going to make you proud, but also aligning yourself with what is going to work best for you. Now, some of you guys listening to my goals would be like, hey, that is not necessarily what I would do during the holidays. I would define success differently than you. That's 100% okay. That's encouraged. You're supposed to be different than me. You're supposed to want different things than me, right? You have a different timeline than me. Me talking about going to the gym 4 days a week during the holidays while traveling. Some of you guys with a couple kids would be like, there's no way in a million years I could do that. That's fine. Good. So figure out what can you do with the time that you have? What would make you proud? Would it be at least 30 minutes of walking? All these different things, right? So you see how that plays along. The third lesson, or the third thing that I wish that I had heard is going to be that overeating and feeling uncomfortable in your skin is 100% normal. 100% normal. And it's not bad by any means. But punishing yourself for it is not okay. Right? I used to overeat a little bit. Maybe I was like, I'm only going to have 1 cookie, and I ended up having 3. And then all of a sudden, I just catastrophized the fact that I overate by 2 cookies, and it was just like, well, screw it. I'm just going to eat everything in sight. And I just became this big old trash panda because I had this expectations that overeating just a little bit was bad. And also feeling uncomfortable in my skin. Like I used to just beat myself up for feeling like my clothes are feeling a little bit tighter or feeling a little bit bloated or seeing the weight go up. And I would just think that it was the worst thing in the world. Again, I would catastrophize this whole thing when in reality, it's 100% normal. Overeating is 100% normal. It is actually a normal part of life. We are allowed to overeat once in a while. And I think the holidays is one time of the year where we're like, hey, yeah, like overeating, not a big deal. You've got holidays, you got lots of really great food, you're around your family, creating memories. Overeating is going to happen. Feeling uncomfortable in your skin because you are slightly overeating. You've got more sodium, you got more volume of food, maybe a little bit more water retention, more stress during the holidays as well, right? Like all these different, your digestive system's probably going to be a little bit backed up too because things are changing and stress. Like all these different things that add, like completely explain weight going up without you gaining fat during that time. Like we just see these overeating, feeling uncomfortable, seeing the weight on the scale go up, and we catastrophize it. And then all of a sudden, we start punishing ourselves for it. We start crying, we start overwhelming ourselves, we start jumping on the next fad diet, we start falling for all the fitness professional BS out there because they're leveraging on your emotions. You start trying to punish yourself in the gym and overwork yourself. Now you're showing off poor behavior patterns to your loved ones and your kids, which that is not a good thing. Now you're restricting your calories and you're just setting yourself up for another restrict binge cycle again that you feel you're stuck on. Like you see how we're catastrophizing something that is 100% normal and 100% okay. And that is what is leading to the actions that keep you feeling stuck and feel like you're in a very toxic relationship. Full transparency, this holidays, 100% overate. Do my clothes fit tighter? 100%. Do I feel slightly uncomfortable in my body right now? Totally. Am I freaking the frick out and thinking that my value as a person is any lower? Hell no. Am I crying like I used to do before? No. Because I know it's 100% normal. It's expected every single year. And I know exactly what I need to be doing in order to get back to what I need, where I was before. More than likely, just get back on track, give myself a couple of days, maybe a good poop, maybe drinking more water to help water retention go down, get some more sleep, just keep my movement regular, and I'll be fine. Right? It's not punishing, like I'm not going to punish myself and put myself back into this restrict binge cycle that I was stuck in. I'm not going to go back to self-loathing myself, or loathing myself. Like I'm not going to go back to that because I normalize overeating and feeling uncomfortable. When I regularize that, I overate just a little bit, not went overboard. When I started feeling uncomfortable in my skin, I just put a big sweatshirt on, but I still got up and I still went to the gym rather than before. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so uncomfortable in my skin. I shouldn't go to the gym because people are going to look at me when every single person at the gym slightly overate. Every person at the gym probably feels uncomfortable in their body. And they're still showing up and it's 100% normal. Maybe they're going through the same thing as you, but their self-loathing got them to the gym anyways, and now they're trying to beat themselves up. But to a lot of people, that is not success during the holidays. A lot of people, they just don't want to be controlled by their emotions during the holidays. And one of the ways to allow that to happen so you don't catastrophize things and just completely fall off the ledge, both emotionally and with your actions, is just completely accepting that you will overeat. You will feel uncomfortable in your skin. You will potentially see the weight on the scale go up temporarily. That is okay. But punishing yourself and catastrophizing things are not, right? The next lesson in here is going to be that I wish that I heard is kind of going into a segue is one day is not going to ruin your progress, or even a couple days is not going to ruin your progress. Your all or nothing thinking or catastrophizing things will. That's another thing, is like accepting that 1 to 2 or 3 days is going to happen. And it's not going to ruin things. right? When you take a scope out, looking at the year, okay, 3 days out of 365 days is a blimp. It's nothing. It's nothing. When you're really logically looking at it, doing the math, 3 days, let's say Thanksgiving. Okay. Or like, actually, there's some people that do have more days, right? So like for me, for example, like we have one day, we had 2 dinners one day. That was it. Did I have a little fun Friday and Saturday? 100%, but I didn't have like Thanksgiving fun. You know what I mean? So in those 3 days for the Thanksgiving, in a grand scheme of things, it's nothing. But let's say I have another 3 days for Christmas, maybe a day or two for New Year's. In the grand scheme of things, about like, let's say for average for people, 7 to 9 days of enjoying yourself out of the year is nothing. It's not going to do anything. What will do something is letting that one day, or the 2 or the 3, because you view having one day of overeating or feeling uncomfortable in your skin, ruin your mindset. And you start falling into all or nothing thinking, well, I'm not 100% perfect, so I'm just not going to do anything at all. And now that one day, quote unquote, it might be more, but that one day turns into the rest of the year and potentially falling into the next year because you're stuck in this mindset of like, I wasn't 100% perfect, so I'm just not going to do anything at all, and just kind of like digging yourself in a hole. That's when you're screwed. And I had that problem. I would have Thanksgiving, and then I would try to restrict myself and punish myself, but that didn't last long because that sucks. And then from there, I would just not do anything. I would just completely avoid it. Because all I thought in my mind is like, hey, like all I'm going to do is overeat again. Why even try? All these all or nothing thinking. And so that one day bled into Christmas. Then that bled into New Year's. And then I felt so uncomfortable with everything and just loathed myself so much that I just didn't even want to go try for a while. And then out of time of gaining enough weight and just hating myself, then I was like, okay, great. I might as well do something. And then I jumped into a next fad diet that just put me into another cycle of yo-yo dieting. And again, that groundhog circle, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But what if I just said, hey, this is just one day, and just let it at that, and just went back to what I normally do, not jump back on the wagon, but just gave myself permission to have one day and went back to what I normally did the next day. Again, I say this so much. Sometimes the thing that's holding you back is not having the perfect fitness program or having all the motivation in the world or anything like that. It is literally your mindset. Like, you can be the worst enemy. We can be complete assholes to ourselves. Simply just how we think and how we perceive can completely derail us. And so, again, that one day is okay. But your all or nothing thinking, that asshole brain coming in, that's not okay. That's what's going to derail you. Whether your goal is to lose fat, whether your goal is to build muscle, whether your goal is to create a better relationship with food or be healthier in general. Like, I don't care. The stuff needs to happen. And if you let just one day, if you catastrophize that, you don't give yourself permission to have that one day or a couple of days, that will bleed into the next day. And that will definitely breed that all or nothing thinking, the fixed mindset that other people are struggling with. Okay. The 5th lesson is going to be like treating each holiday as practice. And I'll explain what I mean by this. A lot of times, I was actually talking to a client about this. And when I was talking to her about how we need to take into this Thanksgiving as time for practice and moving into Christmas, and then we'll practice again for New Year's. And that way we can write down what worked the next year after that. You can figure out what works and then add on to it. She was like, oh my God, I've never thought of it that way. Never thought of like a holiday as practice. I always thought either I was perfect or not. And again, feeding into all or nothing thinking. So one way to shift that is practice. Because when we're thinking about practice, right? we're like, if you've ever played sports or if you watched your kids play sports or anything like that, we understand that practice, you have the ability to screw up. Like, it's completely acceptable to try something out and not be really great at it, whether it's a certain drill or a technique or a movement or whatever sport that you're doing, or a play, right? Like in football, you do certain plays and things like that. You practice it. You're giving yourself permission to suck at it at first and get better at it. You're putting in the repetitions. And we're treating the holidays as game day. It has to be perfect. It has to be 100% perfect. And if you screw up, that's a game. And it's like, we're not playing a game here, guys. This is literally a whole lifelong practice. And each holiday is a time for practice. You get to try out different things. Like, let's say that you do the future self-journaling prompts and you say, hey, this would make me proud. How am I going to do it? I think this is going to work. Okay. But then you go in the holidays and you like, that doesn't work, or you fall short, or different things like that. Again, we're going into the all or nothing thinking that, oh, I screwed up. Might as well not try it at all. This isn't going to work, blah, blah, blah. Instead of thinking of it as practice. Okay. I tried this. What are the things that did work? What are the 2 things maybe that I can take away from this that I can get better at? What are the lessons that I can do? Okay. Did this work? Did this not? Like, objectively looking at it from an outside perspective of, again, that perspective of practice. I'm allowed to fuck up. I'm allowed to make mistakes. And if anything, those mistakes are going to teach me what is going to work next time, and I can take that. But if we have that game day perspective, it's like, oh, it didn't work, so I'm just not going to do it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you see logically when we're looking at this from an outside objective perspective, when we think about practice, now we're taking a mistake and actually using it to our advantage to help us get better, rather than catastrophizing something. I think that if we generally had that perspective on everything when it comes to nutrition fitness, you would progress a lot faster and enjoy the whole process a lot better, because we wouldn't be so hard on ourselves. So think of each holiday as a time for practice. And something that I always talk about with my own clients too, that helped me a lot as well, is thinking it as practice as a certain situation, but then having also a plan A, B, and C. Like, usually, like, let's say in a sport, you have like a play. And if it goes perfectly, plan A, this is what you do. But if this mistake happens, this is plan B. And then if this happens, plan C. You have contingency plans, because you can't expect everything to go perfect. Same thing with the holidays. There's so many different things going on. So you can have a plan A, but then you can have a plan B and C. And then you go and practice it. See if that works. If it does, great, keep it. If it doesn't, make adjustments and move on. That's it. Simple as that. No emotions, no feeling like you're failing or anything like that. If anything, you're using that to make you better. I swear to goodness, I am really, really fortunate to have some awesome mentors that are extremely successful themselves and have friends and also connections that are very, very successful. And it's almost a trait of very highly successful people, is that they brag about how much they screw up. It's almost like bragging rights. And when you talk about people that are legendary, creating inventions or building businesses or anything like that, nobody ever talks about the hundreds and thousands of times they screwed up before they nailed it right. And I think the reason why that makes them different from everybody else is that successful people do not view mistakes as failures. They view it as key lessons that they need to get better. Some of the best lessons you learn are from your mistakes. But the people that are unsuccessful view mistakes as a tie to their value and their ability to succeed, rather than what it actually is the opportunity to get better, a lesson learned for you to really figure out what's going to work best. The best lessons learned are the ones from your mistakes. That's where you, like, learning what not to do is just as valuable as learning what to do. So when you are coming from a perspective of game day rather than practice, now you're viewing those mistakes as failures rather than what they actually are, opportunities to learn. But that's a choice. So I think that perspective change of this is practice, not a game day, super helpful. And then last one is going to be more of a strategy thing for most people. This is something that I do personally. It doesn't work. You don't necessarily have to do it all the time, but it is something that generally works best for most people. And the thing is going to be having the expectations of going into a calorie deficit, seeing fat loss during this time, or any specific strategic change, really dialing things in. Holidays is probably not the best time right now, to be honest with you, for most people. I actually have like one client that I currently have I don't have a huge roster, but I do have one client that chose to go into a fat loss phase during this time. And we both agreed that it was probably a good thing because she doesn't have a lot going through the holidays. She's not traveling a lot. She's not doing big meals. She's not doing anything. It's not of a place of restriction. It's just how her life is at this current moment. So she's like, honestly, I think a dieting phase is just fine because I don't really have much to do right now. And she's fine. She's doing great. She's killing it. We're checking in mentally to see if she's okay. And it works for her. But I know for me specifically, I had these unrealistic expectations of going into a calorie deficit. And all it did was lead into the restrict binge. Like, it was more of compensation. I was like, oh, I'm probably going to overeat, so I might as well go into calorie deficit because it's just going to fix everything. And then all these unrealistic expectations of I have to be hitting my macros or what are you doing? I also have to be perfect with my workouts. I have to stay within a calorie deficit. Like, that does not go well with the holidays where you're traveling a lot. You have a lot of unforeseen circumstances. You can't always control what's going to be at dinner. You can't plan things ahead of time. You're going to be probably won't have access to this gym that you typically do. You won't have the same schedule. Like, all these different things. Like, you're literally just setting yourself up for failure to try to diet for most people during the time. But here's the thing, is like, okay, usually when I'm like, hey, let's not diet during this time, people are like, okay, well then I just won't do anything. Like, if I can't diet, I guess there's nothing else I can do. And it's like, you do know that there's so much more that you can do, that nutrition fitness is more than just dieting. And there are some things that you can do if your goal is dieting. That's great. If your goal is to lose fat, that's fantastic. I'm not knocking that. But like, there are a lot of other things that you can do during this time that will actually make your fat loss phase 10 times easier for you and set you up for a higher ceiling of potential. And even if your goal is not fat loss, there's still a ton of things that you can do because, again, there's more than just going into a calorie deficit. There's so much more. Going into a calorie deficit is such a small blip of the whole experience to help you get where you need to be. So this is what I, after a lot of trial and error, typically do during the holidays. I usually teach my clients to because it works well for most people. So during this time in the holidays, instead of going to a calorie deficit, we just take a look at what their ultimate goal is and what are the things that we can work on during this time to help them reach that goal. So let's say a lot of people want to get leaner, right? It's a big goal for a lot of people. They want to look better naked. They want to lose fat. They want to build muscle, things like that. Well, if you're somebody that is looking to go into a calorie deficit sooner or later, you want to get leaner, you want to lose fat. Well, there are some things that you need to be doing in order to set you up for success for that. For example, getting in a routine for lifting weights and or building muscle at this time. Really constructive, especially when you're eating more. You cannot build muscle efficiently while being in a calorie deficit, by the way. You do need to be eating more food. So this is a very advantageous time to just focus on building muscle tissue, getting in the gym, hitting those workouts, learning the technique, learning how to get more out of your workouts, making sure that you're eating enough calories. It doesn't need to be perfect by any means, but just making sure the trend is working towards your goal. Because if you want to get that lean look, you also want to not be eating like a rabbit to maintain that leanness. You also want to feel better and move better and have a good quality of life that requires more muscle tissue than you think it does. And so spending that short period of time during the holidays is realistic for a lot of people, of just leaning into building muscle tissue, lifting heavy, getting enough protein, eating enough calories, working on sleep, things like that. Another thing that a lot of people struggle with is having a good relationship with food, that moderation. We're talking about the all or nothing thinking. If I have one cookie, I'll have 10 cookies. That elusive moderation. Well, guess what? This is the perfect time to practice that. That's not just something that you just have. It is a skill that you need to develop, and you need to, I've been saying the word practice enough that you're probably like, okay, stop saying practice, but you get it. You could also be working on boosting your metabolism during this time. A lot of times people have just been chronically dieting over and over and over again. I swear to God, about 95% of the people that come into our door, poor metabolism. Majority of the people coming to us have been trying everything underneath the sun, and or just learning what their mom taught them, watching their moms going to Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers or whatever, just chronically under eating. They widely underestimate what they should be eating every single day. That just completely wrecks their metabolic health. And now whenever they're trying to go and do a calorie deficit, they have to eat like a toddler. Also, they're running into hormonal issues, gut issues, because that wreaks havoc on you when you've been chronically under eating and or dieting. If it's like this thing where you've never heard of eating at maintenance, you've never heard of restoring your metabolism, probably something that you want to take a look at. Holidays is a perfect time because you're giving yourself permission to eat more food rather than chronically having this mindset of under eating all the time and restricting yourself. Now you're breaking that pattern. You're also creating a better relationship with food as well. And you're setting yourself up for success to have a very successful fat loss phase later. Because if you have a higher metabolism coming out of the holidays, okay, you strategically worked on that. You have a higher metabolism. You gave yourself permission to eat more, right? So you're not in this mindset of I have to constantly restrict myself and punish myself. I'm actually objectively doing what I need to do to help me feel great, look great, and have make fat loss seamless. I'm also building muscle tissue during that time, also healing my relationship with food. You're doing all these different things by the time the other side of the holidays, if it makes sense to you, that's something that you want to do. Going into a fat loss phase is now seamless. You just fixed all the issues that you're typically running into that's causing you to not see results and or feel like you're moving inches when you feel moving miles, or feeling like you're stuck in this yo-yo dieting cycle of always falling off. You're just fixing all of that during the holidays while creating memories, while feeling great, while eating the damn food, all at the same time. And now on the other side, you're not coming out with self-loathing, giving up, crying, feeling uncomfortable in your body, not showing up out in the public, and just listing off some of the things that I'm remembering all the different things in my head right now. You're coming out on the other side with the feeling of being proud of yourself on how you handled something. You got best of both worlds. And you're coming out of the other side better than when you started. And now whatever goal that you have, you're going to crush it. Whether it is fat loss, whether it is performance, whether it is building muscle, whatever it is, that foundation, you can work on that during the holidays. That's 100% realistic. We do that with our clients all the time. And something that I did, and it's been an absolute game changer. Like, I have a hard rule for myself. I don't diet during the holidays. I don't go in a calorie deficit. It's a hard rule. No matter how uncomfortable I feel, no matter if I want to try to lose weight, going in a calorie deficit during the holidays only adds to the fuel to the fire of having a poor relationship with food and myself. So that is going to be the 6 lessons that I wish that I heard when I was going through my fitness journey. All right, so just to recap, leave the shoulds and should nots at the door. Always do it out of love. The second one is going to be stop looking to others for examples and start asking your future self. You should use that future self journaling prompt. Like, I swear to goodness, if you actually sit down with a piece of paper and pen and write out what you would do, that would make you extremely proud for the holidays. It's going to be a game changer. Okay. Overeating and feeling uncomfortable is number 3. And your skin is 100% normal. Punishing yourself is not. Number 4 is one day is not going to ruin your progress. Letting one day turn into the rest of the year will. That all or nothing thinking that we're talking about. Number 5 is going to be treat each holiday as practice, not game day. And the last one is going to be during the holidays, going in a calorie deficit, more than likely not the answer, but there are still things you can work on that's going to make you very proud and help you come out on the other side for whatever goals that you have. Some examples are restoring your metabolism, building solid muscle tissue, learning how to eat more protein, or fixing your relationship with food. All these different things. Some people still work on improving their internal health or hormonal health, what have it. There's more than just going into a calorie deficit, so much more. And again, going into a calorie deficit is such a small part of the process. The people that actually get the outcome that they're looking for, of loving the way that they think and feel and look, and having quality of life and being able to keep this for long term, that outcome that you're looking for requires you to be in a calorie deficit the least amount as possible. So use the holidays as that time to make yourself better. Okay. So again, I hope this helps in just some small way. But big picture is, I just hope that you enjoy the holidays, that you're living your best life, you're creating memories, you're connecting with your loved ones, you're making meaningful conversations rather than obsessing over your food and obsessing about where you're going to work out or feeling like you're constantly failing. This whole thing is meant to help you live your best life, not trap you in a prison. And again, I hope these 6 lessons helped you in some small way. If not, I apologize. But I just didn't want to be like every other fitness professional out there. So with that being said, have a great time. Until next time, next week, we'll have our next podcast. Talk to you then.